I rolled into Marlinton around 8:30, hauling a day's worth of cables and cases and a headache that started somewhere past the second ridgeline. The rented hatchback needed gas, but I needed batteries more. AAA's for my field recorder. I'd been burning through them faster than I planned, and the pack I brought from Pittsburgh was down to 2 that probably had another hour between them. Maybe less. Dollar General sat off the main drag in a strip lot next to a shuttered insurance office and a pizza place that looked open but dark. I pulled in under the flat wash of parking lot lights and killed the engine. Quiet dropped in fast. That was the thing about this place. Silence had weight here. No hum of cell towers, no distant highway drone, just wind and my own breathing and the tick of the cooling engine. I grabbed my wallet and got out. The air smelled like asphalt and something green I couldn't name. Trees, probably. Or just West Virginia at night. Inside was bright and too warm. The kind of heat that hits you after a long drive and makes you feel a little sick. Aisles of chips and motor oil and cleaning supplies under flickering LEDs. A guy around my age stood behind the register in a yellow polo, name tag crooked. Julian. He glanced up, nodded once, looked back at his phone. I found the battery rack near the back by the seasonal stuff. Leftover Easter baskets marked down to nothing. Grabbed 2 4-packs of Duracells and a bottle of water I didn't really want but figured I should drink. My hands smelled like the recorder bag. Leather and dust and something metallic from the windscreen. The transaction took maybe 30 seconds. Julian rang me up without saying much. I paid cash because that's what you did out here. No card readers half the time, and when they worked, they were slow. Thanks, I said. Yeah, that was it. I'd been in Pocahontas County a week by then. Paige Cross rented me a room in her house just outside town, 2nd floor, clean, with a window that looked over her garden and a gravel drive where I parked the hatchback every night. She was polite and distant in the way landladies are when they're used to temporary people. Didn't ask for my name the first day. Didn't ask for a single thing except first and last month up front. The job was simple. Abby Estrada, a science reporter out of D.C., needed clean audio from the National Radio Quiet Zone for a feature she was putting together. Ambiances. Tour recordings from the Green Bank Observatory. Maybe a few interviews if I could get them. She'd hired me before for similar gigs. I did field recording mostly, and this one paid decent for a week's work. I liked it more than I thought I would. No cell service meant no distractions, no email refresh, no text threads pulling me sideways. Just me and the recorder and long stretches of road through hills that didn't care if I existed. The observatory itself was strange in a good way. Massive dish pointing at nothing I could see. Techs in quiet hallways, everyone talking in low voices because that's what you did around instruments that sensitive. Mario Sanders gave the tours. Older guy, enthusiastic, good at explaining things without sounding like he was talking down. I'd recorded 2 of his sessions already and got some decent crowd ambiance. Questions from tourists, footsteps on metal grating, the weird muffled acoustics of the visitor center. Everything felt narrow out here, focused. I didn't mind it. I pushed through the Dollar General door with the batteries in a plastic bag and the water bottle tucked under one arm. The parking lot was still empty except for my hatchback and a truck near the edge I hadn't noticed before. Julian's, probably. The lights buzzed overhead. Sodium vapor, that flat orange wash that makes everything look sickly. I was halfway to my car when I saw him. Guy in a mechanic shirt, stained dark across the chest and under the arms, staggering out from between 2 parked cars near the far end of the lot. His gait was wrong. Not drunk, I'd seen drunk, but wrong in a way that made my stomach tighten before I knew why. He took 3 more steps and went down hard by the curb. I stopped, looked back at the Dollar General. Julian was still inside, visible through the glass, head down over his phone. The guy didn't get up. I dropped the bag and ran. He was on his side when I reached him, knees pulled up, one hand clawing at the asphalt. His name tag said Patrick Montgomery in faded Sharpie. The shirt was worse up close. Oil, maybe, or something darker. His face was pale and slick with sweat, eyes open but not tracking right. "Hey," I said, dropped to a crouch. "You hurt?" His mouth opened, closed, opened again. I kept a first aid kit in the hatchback. Small one, the kind you throw together for field jobs in case you slice a hand on a cable or roll an ankle on uneven ground. I didn't know if it'd help, but it was something. "Hang on," I said. "I'm gonna grab—" "Don't." His voice came out wet and strangled. I froze. "Don't what?" He twitched, not a seizure, just this full-body jerk that looked voluntary but also not. His eyes rolled up, locked on something over my shoulder. I turned. Nothing there, just empty lot and dark hills beyond the lights. "Don't," he said again. "Don't listen." That part bugged me a little. I looked back at the Dollar General. Julian was at the window now, staring out, phone still in his hand. I waved. He didn't move. Patrick made a sound halfway between a gag and a gasp. I turned back. His hand shot out, grabbed my wrist. Strong grip. Stronger than I expected from a guy who looked halfway to passing out. "When it hums," he said, "don't turn your head." "When what hums?" "Just—" He coughed. Let go of my wrist. His hand went back to clawing at the asphalt, fingers scraping in little stuttering drags. "Just don't." I didn't know what to do with that. He was tracking again, eyes up and left, following something I couldn't see. His jaw worked, but nothing came out. Then his whole body went stiff and he sucked in this sharp breath through his teeth. "Okay," I said. Kept my voice level. "Okay. I'm gonna get help. You're gonna be fine." I didn't know if that was true, but it's what you say. I stood and turned back toward the Dollar General. Julian was still at the window. I waved again, bigger this time, and he finally moved. Unlocked the door, stepped out halfway. "Call 911, I shouted. He just stared. "Call them. Now." That got him moving. He ducked back inside. I crouched again. Patrick was still on his side, still twitching, still staring at nothing. His breathing was fast and shallow and wrong. I didn't know what I was looking at. Stroke, maybe. Overdose. Something neurological I didn't have a name for. "Help's coming," I said. He didn't respond. I pulled the recorder bag off my shoulder. Stupid impulse. I don't know why I did it. But my hands needed something to do, and I couldn't just kneel there watching him fall apart. Patrick's mouth moved again. I leaned closer. "Listening," he said, barely a whisper. "They're listening." "Who is?" "Don't know. Can't stop it." His hand came up again, slower this time, and pointed at his own head, tapped twice against his temple. "In here," he said. "Won't stop." I didn't say anything. "What do you say to that?" He twitched again, harder. His eyes rolled back, and for a second I thought he was seizing, but then they snapped forward and locked on mine. "You hear it," he said. "You're already gone." Then he stopped talking. I pressed 2 fingers to the side of Patrick's neck. I had to shift closer because his collar was stiff with grime and I couldn't find the spot at first. His pulse was there, fast, uneven, kind of fluttery in a way that bugged me more than if it had just been racing. His breathing was shallow but steady enough. I counted 4 breaths while I kept my fingers on his neck. In through the teeth, out through barely parted lips. His eyes were still open, but they weren't tracking me anymore. They kept sliding left and up, following something I couldn't see. "Okay," I said. I didn't know if he could hear me. "You're okay. Help's coming." Patrick's hand twitched against the asphalt. His fingers scraped in these short, stuttering drags like he was trying to pull himself somewhere but couldn't get his body to cooperate. I looked back at the Dollar General. Julian was inside, phone pressed to his ear. I could see him through the window, pacing behind the register. His mouth was moving fast. Patrick made a sound, low and choked. I turned back and he was staring right at me now, eyes locked on mine with this desperate focus that made my stomach drop. "Don't!" His voice came out wet. He coughed, tried again. "Don't turn. When it hums." "When what hums?" I kept my voice level, calm. "I figured that's what you're supposed to do." His jaw worked. No sound for a few seconds. Then, "You'll want to. Don't. Don't turn my head." He nodded. Just barely. His whole body was trembling now, fine vibrations running through him like he was cold, but his face was still slick with sweat. "What am I listening for?" I asked. Patrick's mouth opened, closed. His hand came up and tapped his temple twice, same as before. Starts quiet. "You think it's—" He broke off, grimacing. "You think it's something else, something normal." I didn't know what to say to that. I just nodded. "But it's not," Patrick said. His voice dropped to almost nothing. I had to lean in close to hear him. "It's not normal. And once you turn, once you look—" He stopped. His eyes went unfocused again, sliding up and left. "Once I look—" What? Nothing. His breathing hitched. His hand dropped back to the asphalt and started that clawing motion again. I heard the door of the Dollar General open. Julian's voice carried across the lot. "They're coming. They said maybe 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I looked down at Patrick. His lips were moving, but no sound was coming out. I couldn't tell if he was trying to talk or if it was just involuntary. "Patrick," I said, "stay still. Don't try to move." His eyes snapped back to mine. For a second he looked almost lucid, almost there. "Tell them," he said, clear enough that I didn't have to lean in. "Tell them I heard it 3 days ago. Started soft." "Started soft," I repeated. "Okay. What did you hear?" "Humming." Patrick's whole face twisted. Thought it was the fridge at work, thought it was— Doesn't matter, it wasn't. He sucked in a breath through his teeth. "Gets louder. Gets inside." "Inside where?" He tapped his temple again. Harder this time. Hard enough that it had to hurt. "Won't stop. Can't make it stop." I wanted to grab his hand, keep him from hitting himself again, but I didn't know if I should be moving him at all. So I just stayed where I was, crouched next to him on the cold asphalt with my recorder bag sitting a few feet away and a plastic shopping bag somewhere behind me. "They're coming," I said again. "You're going to be fine." Patrick laughed. It came out broken and wrong. "No," he said. "No, I'm not." Then his back arched and his eyes rolled up and he went stiff all over. His hands curled into fists. His heels scraped against the pavement. "Hey." I reached out, hand hovering over his shoulder. "Hey, stay with me." He didn't respond. His jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping in his neck. His whole body shook, then went still. Not relaxed, just still, locked up. I heard the siren before I saw the lights. Faint at first, then louder, cutting through the quiet. I stayed where I was. I didn't know what else to do. The ambulance came in fast, pulling into the lot with the siren cutting off mid-wail. 2 people got out. The first was a guy, maybe early 30s, dark hair and a paramedic uniform with reflective striping. The second was a woman, auburn ponytail, same uniform. They moved quick, but not frantic, controlled. The guy reached us first. He dropped a bag next to Patrick and crouched down across from me. "What happened?" "He collapsed," I said. "Maybe 5 minutes ago. He was walking and then he just went down." "Did he hit his head?" "I don't think so. He was already on the ground when I got to him." The woman knelt next to Patrick's legs, fingers already on his wrist. "Pulse is rapid and thready," she said. Her voice was calm, steady. The guy leaned in, checking Patrick's eyes with a small light. "Patrick, can you hear me?" No response. Patrick's eyes were half open but not tracking. His breathing had gone ragged. Any medical history you know of? The guy asked me. No, I don't know him. I gestured vaguely toward the Dollar General. I saw him fall. Okay. He looked at the woman. Let's get him on O2 and get moving. They worked fast. Oxygen mask over Patrick's face, blood pressure cuff on his arm. I backed up a few steps to give them room, but I didn't leave. The woman, Lexi, her name tag said, was talking to Patrick in this low, reassuring voice even though he wasn't responding. The guy, Jay, was rattling off numbers I didn't fully understand. BP something over something, SATs at 91. They got the stretcher out of the ambulance and transferred Patrick onto it with smooth, practiced movements. Straps across his chest and legs, the oxygen tank clipped to the side. I followed as they wheeled him toward the ambulance. Jay glanced back at me. You riding with? No, but he said something. Before you got here. Jay stopped, turned. What did he say? He kept talking about a humming sound. Said he heard it 3 days ago. Said it got louder, got inside his head. I tried to remember the exact words. He said when it hums, don't turn your head. Don't look. Jay's expression didn't change. He just nodded once. Okay. Anything else? He said once you turn, once you look, I stopped. He didn't finish, but he was scared. Lexi was already in the back of the ambulance, reaching down to help guide the stretcher in. Jay looked at me for another second, then nodded again. Thanks. They loaded Patrick in. The doors closed. The siren kicked back on and they pulled out, lights cutting red and white across the empty lot. I stood there for a minute, maybe longer. Julian was still in the doorway of the Dollar General, staring after the ambulance. I picked up my recorder bag, found the plastic shopping bag with the batteries and water bottle still inside. Got in the hatchback and drove. Pocahontas Memorial was small. Single-story tan brick lit up too bright against the dark. I followed the signs to the emergency entrance and parked in a spot near the ambulance bay. I didn't know why I was there. I figured I'd give them a few minutes, then go in and see if there was anything else they needed to know. If Patrick had family they needed to call. Something. The ambulance was already there, backed up to the bay doors. I got out and walked over. Jay and Lexi were wheeling Patrick inside. I could see him on the stretcher, still strapped down, oxygen mask still on. He wasn't moving. I followed them through the automatic doors into a bright hallway that smelled like disinfectant and floor wax. A nurse in navy scrubs looked up from a desk, then moved toward the stretcher. Her name tag said Kathleen Gutierrez. What have we got? She asked. Jay started rattling off details. Unresponsive male, mid-40s, found collapsed in a parking lot, vitals unstable. I stayed a few steps back, just inside the doorway. A doctor came around the corner. Older guy, white coat, neat mustache. His badge said Logan Bryant. He moved straight to the stretcher and started checking Patrick over, hands quick and efficient. I took another step forward. Kathleen looked up and saw me. Are you family? She asked. No, I'm the one who found him. Okay. Her voice was polite but firm. We've got him from here. You can wait in the lobby if you'd like. I told the paramedic what he said. Before he stopped talking, I just wanted to make sure. We have the information. Kathleen stepped between me and the stretcher. Not aggressive, just a wall. The lobby's back through those doors and to the left. Logan was already moving Patrick down the hall. Jay and Lexi followed with the stretcher. Kathleen stayed where she was, watching me. I nodded, backed up a step. Okay. She waited until I turned around, then went after the others. I walked back outside, got in the hatchback, sat there for a minute with my hands on the wheel, staring at the lit-up entrance. That sick, unfinished feeling sat in my chest. The kind you get when you know something's wrong, but you can't do anything about it. When the pieces don't fit, but no one's asking you to explain why. I drove back to Page's place, let myself in through the side door, climbed the stairs to my room, and sat on the edge of the bed without turning the lights on. It was almost midnight. I should have been tired. I wasn't. My phone rang at 4:37 in the morning. I'd been asleep maybe an hour. I grabbed it off the nightstand, squinting at the screen. Ross Ortega. I answered. Yeah. You up? Ross's voice was low, careful. I am now. You were at the hospital tonight. Pocahontas Memorial. It wasn't a question. I sat up. How'd you know? Word gets around. He paused. Guy you brought in. Patrick Montgomery. He didn't make it. I didn't say anything. Went still on the ride in, Ross said. They tried to bring him back, but couldn't. I rubbed my face with my free hand. When? Maybe 20 minutes after they got him inside. 20 minutes. I'd still been sitting in the parking lot. They know what happened? I asked. Not yet. Ross's voice got quieter. But I'm hearing things, and I need you to listen. Okay. Patrick's not the first. There've been others. Same thing. Same. He stopped. I heard him take a breath. Same kind of symptoms. What kind of symptoms? Disorientation, paranoia, talking about sounds no one else hears. Another pause. Then they collapse. Then they die. I thought about Patrick's hand tapping his temple, the humming, gets inside. How many others? I asked. 3 that I know of, past 8 months. Jesus. Yeah. Ross was quiet for a second. Look, I don't know what you're doing here. I don't know why you came back. But if you're planning to stay, you need to be careful. Careful how? Just pay attention. If you hear something that doesn't make sense, don't try to figure out where it's coming from. Don't go looking. I almost laughed. It came out wrong. That's what Patrick said. Don't turn your head. Ross went silent. When he spoke again, his voice was flat. He told you that? Yeah, right before the ambulance came. Shit. He exhaled hard. Okay, listen, I gotta go, but watch yourself. Ross. He'd already hung up. I sat there in the dark with the phone still in my hand. Outside, the sky was starting to lighten, gray creeping in at the edges. I kept replaying it, Patrick's eyes tracking something I couldn't see, his voice wet and desperate. When it hums, don't turn your head. He'd been reacting to something real enough that it killed him, and I'd been right there, crouched next to him in that parking lot. I never heard a thing. Ross texted me around 11 the next morning. Just said post office, 20 minutes. I was still at Page's place, sitting on the bed with the recorder bag next to me and the batteries I'd bought at Dollar General still in the plastic bag on the floor. I hadn't opened them yet. Hadn't really moved much since I got off the phone with him at 4:37. I drove into town and parked near the post office. Small brick building, American flag out front, 2 cars in the lot. Ross was leaning against his truck near the edge of the gravel, hands in his jacket pockets. I got out and walked over. Hey, I said. He nodded. Didn't say anything right away, just looked at me for a second, then looked past me at the road. You doing okay? He asked. Yeah. He didn't look convinced. You didn't know the guy, right? Patrick. No, just saw him collapse. Ross nodded again. He pulled one hand out of his pocket and rubbed the back of his neck. I heard some things this morning, from inside the hospital. I waited. They did scans on him, Ross said. CT scan, maybe an MRI. I'm not clear on which. But the staff who saw the images, they were shaken up. Shaken up how? Ross looked at me again. His face was careful, guarded. The images showed his inner ears were missing. I didn't say anything for a second. Just stood there. Missing, I said. Yeah, like they were never there. Clean. No damage, no scarring, no sign of surgery or trauma. Just gone. I thought about Patrick on the asphalt, the way his hand kept going to his temple, The way he said it got inside. In here. Won't stop. That doesn't make sense, I said. No, Ross said. It doesn't. People don't just lose their inner ears. Not like that. I know. I looked at the post office, at the flag moving a little in the wind. Tried to make what Ross just told me fit with what I saw in the parking lot. Couldn't do it. Did they say what caused it? I asked. No, I don't think they know. Birth defect? Ross shook his head. Guy was 46. Worked at the garage for 15 years. If he was born without inner ears, someone would have noticed before now. That was true. I didn't know much about inner ear anatomy, but I knew enough to know you needed it for balance, for hearing. Patrick had been walking when I saw him, staggering, but walking. So what? I said. They just disappeared. Ross didn't answer, just looked at me with that same guarded expression. I rubbed my face. My hand smelled like the steering wheel and something stale I couldn't place. This have anything to do with the other 3 cases you mentioned? Don't know, Ross said. I didn't hear details about their scans, just that the symptoms matched. Disorientation. Paranoia. Sounds no one else heard. Yeah. I thought about that. Tried to find a pattern. Came up empty. You think it's drugs? I asked. Ross shrugged. Maybe, but I've seen people on meth, on pills, on whatever. This doesn't look like that. Infection? Could be. But he didn't sound like he believed it. And honestly, neither did I. We stood there for a minute. A car drove past on the main road, slow, and disappeared around the bend. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Ross looked at me. Because you were there. Because you heard what he said. And because if this is something that's going around, you should know about it. I'm just here for a job, I said. Recording clean audio, that's it. I know. I'm not investigating anything. Didn't say you were. But the way he looked at me made it clear he thought I should be paying attention anyway. Just be careful, Ross said. That's all. He got in his truck and drove off. I stood there for another minute, then got back in the hatchback and sat with my hands on the wheel. Same position I'd been in last night outside the hospital. Same unfinished feeling. Patrick's inner ears were missing. I didn't know what to do with that. I went back to Greenbank the next morning, told myself I had work to finish. Abby wanted more recordings, ambient sound, tourist interactions, maybe another tour session if Mario was running one. I had a job, I needed to do it. I parked near the visitor center at 9:45. The lot was already half full. Families, a couple of older tourists with expensive cameras, a school group clustered near a yellow bus. I grabbed the recorder bag and walked inside. Mario was at the front desk talking to a woman with a clipboard. He saw me and smiled. Same friendly tour guide smile he'd given me the last 2 times. Back again? He said. Yeah. Abby wants more material. Well, we've got a tour starting in 15 minutes if you want to sit in. That works. I paid the fee and got a visitor sticker. Stuck it on my jacket and went to check my levels while I waited. Plugged in the headphones, hit record, tapped the windscreen a couple times. Clean signal. No hum, no interference. Just my taps and the low ambient wash of people talking in the lobby. I kept the headphones on and listened. Footsteps on tile. A kid asking his mom if they could see the telescope. The hiss of the coffee machine behind the counter. All normal. All exactly what I expected. But I was listening differently now. Not just capturing sound for Abby. Checking it. Like, maybe there was something in the files I'd been missing. Something I'd been trained to notice, but hadn't. That was stupid. I knew that. Patrick's collapse had nothing to do with my recordings. Nothing to do with the quiet zone or the observatory or anything I was working on. But I kept listening anyway. The tour started at 10. Mario led the group outside toward the main telescope, the Greenbank telescope, The GBT, the big one everyone came to see. I stayed near the back with the recorder running and the bag strap across my chest. Mario did his usual routine. Explained how the telescope worked, how it listened to radio waves from space, how the quiet zone protected it from interference. He used the same analogies he'd used the last 2 times. Same jokes, same practiced upbeat delivery. The tourists asked the same questions. How far can it see? What's the biggest thing it's found? Can we go inside? Mario answered them all with patient, safe explanations. Nothing controversial, nothing that would make anyone uncomfortable. I recorded it and tried to focus on the work, on getting clean audio, on doing what Abby hired me to do. But I kept thinking about Patrick, about his hand going to his temple, about him saying it gets inside, about Ross telling me his inner ears were missing like they'd never been there at all. The tour moved inside to the control room. Mario explained the monitors, the data streams, the way the scientists analyzed signals. A kid asked if they'd ever heard aliens. Mario laughed and said not yet, but they're listening. I adjusted the gain and kept recording. When the tour ended, I stayed behind and recorded ambient sound in the lobby for another 20 minutes. Footsteps, voices, the coffee machine, the soft electronic beep of the payment terminal at the desk. All clean, all normal. I packed up and walked back to the hatchback, sat in the driver's seat with the recorder bag in my lap. Patrick Montgomery was a freak case. That's what I kept telling myself. Maybe drugs. Maybe some kind of infection. Maybe a congenital condition no one had noticed until it killed him. But the inner ear detail wouldn't let go. It didn't fit. None of it fit. I opened the recorder bag and pulled out the handheld unit, scrolled through the files. 3 tours with Mario, 2 ambient sessions in the visitor center, 1 exterior recording of the telescope itself, just wind and distant machinery and the faint creak of metal. I plugged in the headphones and spot-checked a file from 2 days ago. Mario's voice explaining radio astronomy, tourist questions, footsteps on the metal grating. Nothing unusual. I checked another file, then another. All clean. I didn't know what I was looking for. Didn't even know if there was anything to find. But I kept checking anyway. By the time I got back to Page's place, it was almost 5. The work was done. I had enough material for Abby, enough clean audio to fill whatever piece she was writing. But the suspicion was still there. Dialed up. Louder than it had been that morning. I sat on the bed and stared at the recorder bag on the floor. At the plastic bag with the batteries still sitting next to it. Patrick's inner ears were missing. And I didn't know what that meant. But I knew I wasn't going to stop thinking about it. That night I sat on the floor in my room at Page's place with the recorder bag open in front of me, and the handheld unit plugged into my headphones. The work was done. I'd already told myself that twice. Enough material for Abby's piece. Tours, ambiances, visitor center atmosphere. All of it clean and usable. But I wasn't packing up. I was sitting cross-legged on the hardwood with my laptop next to me, and files queued up in the order I'd recorded them. I started with the exterior recordings from 3 nights ago. Wind across the telescope structure. Distant tree line. Faint metal creaking from the dish itself. I closed my eyes and listened through the whole 6-minute file. Nothing unusual. Just what I'd captured. Night air, low breeze, the kind of clean ambient sound you can only get in a place with no interference. I moved to the next file. Another nighttime recording from the same session. This one captured near the visitor center after hours when the lot had emptied out. I'd set the recorder on the hood of the hatchback and let it run for 10 minutes. While I stretched my legs and drank the water bottle I'd bought at Dollar General, the one I'd dropped in the parking lot when Patrick collapsed. I still had it. It was sitting on the floor next to my bed with maybe 2 sips gone. The file played. Wind again, a car passing on the access road maybe half a mile off. Gravel shifting under my boots when I walked back to grab the recorder. Then, in one of the quiet gaps between sounds, I caught something. Low tone. Barely there. My headphones almost didn't pick it up. It sat right at the edge of the frequency range, deep enough that I felt it more than heard it. It pulsed. Not steady, but rhythmic. Every few seconds. On, off, on, off. I backed up the file and played it again. There. It sounded kind of like a distant engine idling, or maybe a generator running somewhere far off. Except there wasn't a generator near the visitor center. I knew that. I'd asked Mario on the first day if there was any mechanical noise I needed to watch for, and he'd said no. The whole site runs quiet by design. I sat forward and pulled the laptop closer, opening the waveform in the editing software. The tone showed up as a faint thread along the bottom of the display, just visible if I zoomed in. Consistent pulse, low frequency, maybe 30 or 40 hertz. I checked the metadata. Recorded at 11:23 p.m., wind speed low, no precipitation. I opened the next file. Same session, different location. This one from the edge of the parking lot near the tree line. I skipped ahead to a quiet section and listened. Same tone, same pulse. I didn't move for a minute, just sat there with the headphones on and the waveform on the screen in front of me. Then I started opening older files. The first night I'd recorded anything after dark was 5 days ago. I'd done a quick ambient capture outside Page's place just to test levels and make sure the recorder was behaving after the drive from Pittsburgh. I opened that file and scrubbed through it. Crickets, distant dog barking. A car on the county road maybe a quarter-mile off. Then, right when the wind died down, there it was. Same low tone, same rhythm. I went through every nighttime file I had. Tour recordings didn't show it because those were all daytime, inside or with crowd noise. But the ambient captures after dark, the ones I'd done outside when things got quiet, they all had it. Every single one. Always after dark. Always when the wind dropped and the background noise thinned out. I pulled the headphones off and set them on the floor next to the recorder. My neck was stiff. I'd been sitting in the same position for maybe an hour. The tone was real. It was on every file. That meant either my equipment was picking up something consistent in the environment, or I had a problem with the recorder itself. Some kind of internal noise or grounding issue that only showed up in quiet conditions. I pulled my phone out and opened a new message to Abby. Typed, possible audio glitch in the night recordings. Low frequency tone showing up in quiet sections. Checking if it's equipment or environmental. Then I stopped. I read it back. Deleted it. It didn't sound like equipment noise. I'd worked with this recorder for 3 years. I knew what internal interference sounded like. It was usually higher pitched, irregular, tied to battery drain or temperature shifts. This was steady, rhythmic, and it only appeared at night. Environmental then. Something out there generating the tone. Except I couldn't think of what. Not here. Not in the quiet zone, where the whole point was eliminating that kind of signal. I put the phone down and looked at the recorder bag. The batteries I'd bought at Dollar General were still in the plastic bag on the floor next to my bed. I hadn't opened them. Hadn't needed to. The original set was still holding charge. Patrick's voice came back. When it hums, don't turn your head. He'd said it started quiet. Said he thought it was the fridge at work. I picked up the phone again and called Ross. He answered on the third ring. His voice was low and cautious. Yeah. It's me, I said. You got a minute? Pause, then. What do you need? I shifted on the floor and leaned back against the bed frame. You said there were 3 other cases. Before Patrick. I did. You know their names? Longer pause this time. I heard something in the background on his end, maybe a door closing or a truck bed slamming shut. Then Ross said, Why are you asking? Because I think I might have found something. Found what? I looked at the laptop screen, at the waveform still open with the faint thread of the tone running through it. I don't know yet. That's why I'm asking. Ross didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then he exhaled, slow and controlled. You recording this call? No. You sure? I'm sure. Another pause. Then, Martin O'Brien, Hunter, 52. They found him sitting upright against a tree near Cass Scenic Railroad last November. No injuries, just dead. I didn't say anything. I waited. Ross continued. Jenny Henry, 34. Pulled from the Greenbrier River in March. Coroner said drowning, but she grew up on that river. Knew how to swim. And the third? Braden Anderson, 17. ATV wreck in June. Rolled it on a trail he'd ridden 100 times. 3 names, 3 deaths. I thought about Patrick on the asphalt with his hand going to his temple, saying it gets inside. What connected them? I asked. Ross's voice dropped lower. Family complaints, before each one, said their person was hearing things, deep humming that made them nauseous, confused, paranoid. There it was. I sat forward again. Same as Patrick. Same as Patrick. Did anyone look into it? The humming? Looked into what? Ross said. No one else heard it, just them. Doctors figured stress, maybe early onset something neurological. Then they died and it stopped mattering. I thought about the tone in my recordings. Low, rhythmic, pulsing every few seconds. What if it wasn't just them? I said. Ross was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Don't. Don't what? Don't dig into this, I'm serious. I'm just asking questions. Yeah, and that's how it starts. His voice had an edge now, not angry, worried. You think you're the first person to notice something doesn't line up here? You're not. And the people who pushed it, they didn't get answers. They got told to stop looking. By who? Does it matter? Yeah, I said. It does. Ross exhaled again, sharper this time. The quiet zone has enforcement beyond routine policing. You get that, right? Federal jurisdiction, observatory security, people whose job it is to make sure nothing interferes with the telescopes. They don't like complications. I didn't say anything. Ross kept going. You're here for a job. You record your sounds, you give them to your reporter, you leave. That's it. Don't make it more than that. What if it already is? Then you leave faster. I looked at the recorder again, at the laptop screen, at the plastic bag with the batteries still sitting on the floor. Thanks for the names, I said. Ross didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was quieter, flatter. You're not going to leave it alone, are you? I don't know yet. He made a sound that might have been a laugh, but wasn't. Yeah, you are. The line went quiet for a second. Then Ross said, Be careful, and hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand and the dial tone in my ear. Then I set it down and looked at the list I'd written on the corner of a receipt. Martin O'Brien, Jenny Henry, Braden Anderson. 3 people dead in less than a year. All of them heard humming no one else could hear. All of them disoriented, nauseous, paranoid before they died. And I had a tone on every nighttime recording I'd made since I got here. Ross's warning sat in my head. Don't dig into this. The kind of thing people say when they know something and don't want you to find out. The kind of warning that makes you want to verify it yourself, just to see if they're right. I pulled the laptop closer and opened a new file. I hung up. Ross's voice was still in my head. Leave faster. But the thing about being told not to look is it makes looking the only thing that matters. I sat on the floor with the laptop screen still showing the waveform. That thin thread at 40 hertz running through every nighttime file. Patrick Montgomery's inner ears were gone. 3 people before him heard the same hum. And I had it on tape. Ross was probably right. I should have packed the recorder, sent Abby what she needed, and driven back to Pittsburgh that night. I didn't. I waited until after dark. Not for any smart reason. Just because the tone only showed up at night, and if I was going to find the source, I needed it loud enough to follow. At 9:45 p.m., I loaded the hatchback. Handheld recorder, spare batteries, the ones I'd finally opened from the Dollar General bag, and my best headphones, the closed back pair I used for field monitoring when I needed to hear every detail. I wore the same jeans and hoodie from the parking lot 2 nights ago. The recorder bag went across my chest. Paige's porch light was on when I pulled out, but I didn't see her in the window. The drive to Greenbank took 20 minutes. No other cars on the road. No lights except my headlights cutting through trees, and the occasional reflector post at a turn. The visitor center appeared first, dark, empty, lot completely clear. I kept driving. A quarter mile past the main entrance, the road narrowed and a sign appeared on the right. Restricted access, authorized personnel only, Nrao property, federal warning. Another sign 50 feet later with smaller print about penalties and enforcement. Then a gate, chain link, maybe 8 feet tall, with a simple sliding bolt lock. No guard, no camera that I could see, though that didn't mean much. I pulled off onto the gravel shoulder about 30 yards before the gate and killed the engine. For a second, I just sat there, hands on the wheel, recorder bag in my lap. This was the point where I should have turned around. I got out. I expected a generator. Maybe a cooling system for equipment, something mechanical they'd tucked out of the way that ran at night when tours weren't happening. That would explain the low frequency, the steady rhythm, the fact that it only showed up after dark when other systems shut down. I pulled the headphones on, turned the recorder to standby, and listened. At first, nothing but wind, leaves shifting, my own breath inside the cup of the headphones. Then I caught it, low. Deep enough I felt it in my ribs before I heard it in my ears. Same tone from the files, but stronger now, not filtered through a recording. It pulsed, on, off, on, off. 3 seconds between beats. I turned my head left. The tone faded slightly. Turned right. It came back, louder. That's when I realized it wasn't coming from all directions. It had a source, a direction. I started walking. I stayed off the road, moving through the tree line parallel to the fence. The hum rose and fell depending on which way I faced, and I used that. Turned slowly in a circle, headphones on, letting the volume tell me where to go. When I faced the observatory, back toward the visitor center and the big dish, the tone dropped. When I turned away, toward the ridge line east of the site, it peaked. That didn't make sense. The whole point of the quiet zone was protecting the telescope from interference. If something was generating a signal, it should have been tied to the equipment. Cooling fans, data servers, something related to the dish itself. But the strongest point was pulling me away from it. I kept walking. The tree line opened onto a dirt pull-off about 100 yards from where I'd parked. Tire tracks in the mud, recent enough the edges hadn't softened. 2 sets, maybe 3. A truck, probably. Something with wide treads. And past the pull-off, maybe 20 feet into the clearing, a concrete hut. It was small, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet. Plain poured concrete, no windows, flat roof. One metal door with a simple padlock through the latch. No signage, no markings. Nothing that said what it was for or who put it there. For a second I felt this weird relief. Padlocks meant people, human infrastructure, rules. Something I could understand, even if I wasn't supposed to be there. I stood at the edge of the clearing and stared at it. The hum was louder now. Loud enough I pulled the headphones down around my neck because I didn't need them anymore. I could feel it in my chest, my throat, the space behind my eyes. I should leave. That was the thought. Clear, practical, obvious. I took a step toward the hut. The hum spiked, not gradually. It jumped, like something inside had noticed me or switched modes, and my stomach rolled hard enough I stopped moving and pressed one hand against a tree trunk to steady myself. I closed my eyes, took a breath through my nose, told myself it was just infrasound low enough to trigger nausea, nothing more than physics. but under the hum, barely audible, thin and sharp, I caught something else. Clicking. Fast, rhythmic, almost mechanical, but not random. It had structure, patterns, like Morse code maybe, or a data transmission, like speech. I opened my eyes. The padlock was simple, a standard master lock, the kind you'd use on a shed. I could have broken it if I wanted to. Bolt cutters would have done it. Hell, a good pull with a crowbar would have popped the latch screws right out of the frame. I wasn't going to do that. I don't know why. Maybe because breaking a federal lock felt different than just walking onto federal land. Maybe because I still wanted to believe I wasn't the kind of person who'd cross that line. I circled the hut instead. The back wall had a vent. Small, maybe 6 inches by 6 inches, covered with a metal grate. No screws holding it in place, just pressure fit into the concrete. I knelt down. The hum was loudest here, the clicking too. I could hear it clearly now, layered under the low tone. Fast enough the individual clicks blurred together, but slow enough I could tell they weren't constant. They pulsed, stopped, started again. I pulled the recorder off my shoulder, flipped it to record, and checked the levels. They jumped, peaked into the red, then dropped back, then spiked again in rhythm with the hum. I lay down on my side in the dirt, arm extended, and pushed the recorder as close to the vent as I could. The levels climbed. Whatever was inside wasn't random. It repeated. Same pulse, same rhythm, same clicking pattern buried underneath. Not a generator, not a cooling fan. A message. The light inside the hut flipped on. I was still on my side in the dirt with the recorder extended toward the vent when the glow spilled through the grate and hit my hand. Yellow, fluorescent. The kind that buzzes in empty offices. I didn't move. I should have moved. My brain said, get up, pull back, run. But my body stayed frozen with my arms stretched out and the recorder 6 inches from the vent. The hum didn't change. The clicking underneath kept going in the same pattern. Then I heard the padlock. Not someone working it from outside. From inside. A metal click, clean and deliberate, and the bolt sliding free. The door swung out. I pulled my arm back fast enough to scrape my elbow on concrete and rolled onto my knees. The recorder was still in my hand. I don't know why I didn't drop it. A man stepped out. He didn't rush. He moved like someone checking the weather. Boots first, then the rest of him, and he stopped just outside the doorway with one hand still on the frame. He wore a headlamp. The beam swept the clearing in a slow arc, left to right. Like he was listening more than looking. He had a green jacket with a patch on the shoulder. I recognized it from the visitor center. Observatory contractor. Same logo, same font. His name was Clyde Tucker. I didn't know that yet. I learned it later. He turned his head and the beam hit me square in the face. I couldn't see anything past the light, just white and the afterimage of trees. This area's restricted, he said. His voice was calm, not loud, not angry, just stating a fact. I stood up. My legs felt wrong. The hum was still going and my stomach rolled again, but I locked my knees and stayed upright. I didn't see a sign, I said. It was a stupid thing to say. There were 2 signs. I'd driven past both of them. He didn't answer right away. He tilted his head and the beam dropped from my eyes to my chest, to the recorder bag, to the unit still in my hand with the red light showing it was recording. Recording equipment makes it worse, he said. I hit stop. My thumb found the button on muscle memory, and the red light went dark. I'm working, I said. I'm doing a job for a reporter, sound recording, ambiance. I heard something out here and I was checking if it's a noise problem. He watched me. The headlamp made it impossible to see his face, but I could feel him watching. You're not the first person to follow the hum, he said. That part made my chest tighten. I don't know what you mean, I said. Yeah, he said. You do. He stepped to the side and raised one hand, not pointing at me, just a signal. Two more lights flipped on in the tree line behind me. I turned. I couldn't help it. Two people, maybe 30 feet back, standing in positions that cut off the path I'd used to get here. One on the left, one on the right. Both wearing the same green jackets. Both with headlamps. I looked back at Clyde. He hadn't moved. We're going to need the recorder, he said. It's my equipment, I said. I know. I need it for work. You can get another one. I didn't hand it over. I should have. I knew I should have. But I held on to it. Clyde sighed. Not frustrated, just tired. This goes easier if you cooperate, he said. The two others started moving. Not fast, just closing the distance. Okay, I said. Okay, I'll go. I'll leave. I won't come back. Yeah, Clyde said. You will. That stopped me. What? You'll leave tonight, he said. And you'll think about it tomorrow. And the day after that, you'll start looking for another way in. That's how it works. The two others were 10 feet away now. Close enough I could see details. The one on the left was a woman, maybe late 30s, with her hair pulled back tight. The one on the right was a man, taller, built solid. Both of them looked at Clyde, not me. Inside, Clyde said. I'm not going in there, I said. You are, he said. You can walk or Henry can help you. Your choice. Henry, the tall one. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. I walked. Clyde stepped aside and I went through the door into the hut. It was hot inside. Not warm, hot. The kind of heat that comes off electronics running too long without ventilation. The air smelled like metal and ozone and something sharper I couldn't place. Burnt plastic, maybe. The space was smaller than it looked from outside. 10 by 10, like I thought, but the racks along the walls made it feel tighter. Equipment racks. Black metal, bolted to the concrete, filled with units I didn't recognize. No labels, no manufacturer logos. Just smooth black boxes with ventilation slots and a few blinking LEDs. In the center of the room was a chair, bolted to the floor, facing a black panel on the far wall. The hum was worse in here. Not louder exactly, more physical. It rattled in my jaw and teeth in the space behind my eyes. Clyde came in behind me, then the woman, then Henry. The door stayed open, but Henry stood in front of it. Sit down, Clyde said. I looked at the chair. It was just a chair, metal frame, flat seat, no arms. But it was bolted down, and that made it something else. I don't want to, I said. I know, Clyde said. I sat down. The woman moved to one of the racks and pulled something off a hook, a small black sensor on a wire. She clipped it to my collar without saying anything. Her hands were fast and precise. She didn't look at my face. The panel in front of me flickered. Not on, just a flicker, like a screen waking up. Then it pulsed. A rhythm. The same rhythm I'd heard in the recordings, on for 3 seconds, off for 3 seconds. But this wasn't sound. This was light, or something close to light. It didn't illuminate anything. It just was. My vision stuttered. I don't know how else to describe it. The room was there, then it wasn't, then it was again, but shifted slightly to the left. My balance went sideways and I gripped the edge of the seat. Relax, Clyde said. I couldn't relax. My inner ear was screaming that I was falling even though I was sitting still. The woman was watching a small screen on the rack. I couldn't see what it showed. Elevated, she said. Her voice was flat, clinical. Clyde nodded. The pulses kept going. My stomach rolled and I tasted bile at the back of my throat. What are you doing? I said. Compliance monitoring, Clyde said. Quiet zone enforcement. This isn't enforcement, I said. It is now. Another pulse. My vision stuttered again and I felt pressure building in my left ear. Not pain, just pressure, like descending too fast on a plane. I saw the camera then, small, mounted in the corner near the ceiling, a tiny red light beneath the lens, and a sticker on the side of one rack. NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. That gave me a stupid flicker of hope. Federal oversight, paperwork, procedures, not violence. Clyde saw me looking. Some people can't help it, he said. They hear the signal and they have to follow it, like you. I'm just doing my job, I said. No, he said. You finished your job 2 days ago. You're here because you couldn't stop. He wasn't wrong. The woman checked the screen again. Spiking, she said. The pulses got faster. My vision went in and out, and I couldn't track which direction was up anymore. I leaned forward and my hands hit my knees and I focused on that. Solid. Real. Resistance makes it worse, Clyde said. Lasting harm. You want to stop analyzing and let it pass. I didn't know how to stop analyzing, that was the whole problem. But I tried. I made my hands let go of my knees. I sat back. I stopped trying to track the pulses and just let them happen. It didn't stop. But it changed. The pressure in my ear evened out. The nausea stayed, but didn't spike. The woman said something I didn't catch. The panel went dark. The sensor came off my collar. The woman's hands again, fast and impersonal. Clyde stepped back. You can go, he said. I stood up too fast and the room tilted. I caught myself on the back of the chair and waited for it to level out. Slowly, Clyde said. I moved slowly. One step, then another. Henry moved out of the doorway, and I walked through it into the clearing. The air outside was cold and clean, and I sucked it in like I'd been underwater. Leave the county, Clyde said from behind me. Don't come back. Don't talk about this. I didn't answer. I just walked. I made it to the tree line before I had to stop and brace against a trunk. My legs were shaking. The hum was still there, but quieter now. Or maybe I was farther away. I couldn't tell. I kept walking. Ross found me by my car. I don't know what time it was. Late or early. The sky had that pale edge that comes before dawn. I was on my knees next to the hatchback with one hand on the bumper and my stomach empty. I'd thrown up twice, maybe 3 times. I'd lost count. Ross's truck pulled up behind me, and the headlights lit up the gravel, and my shadow stretched out long and thin in front of me. He got out. I heard the door, heard his boots. Jesus, he said. I didn't look up. He crouched next to me. Can you stand? He said. Yeah, I said. I couldn't. He got an arm under mine and pulled me up. I leaned on him harder than I meant to. What happened? He said. I went to the hut, I said. He didn't ask which hut. He just swore under his breath and opened the passenger door of his truck. Get in, he said. I got in. He shut the door and walked back to my hatchback. I watched him in the side mirror. He leaned in through the driver's window, popped the trunk, pulled out my recorder bag. He brought it to the truck and set it in the back seat. Then he drove. We didn't talk. I kept my eyes closed and focused on breathing. The road was rough, and every bump made my stomach roll again, but there was nothing left to come up. When the truck stopped, I opened my eyes. Paige's place. The porch light was still on. Go inside and pack, Ross said. Right now, everything. Don't leave anything. I need to sleep, I said. You need to leave, he said. If you're still here in 2 hours, they'll come back. I believed him. I got out. My legs held, barely. Ross stayed in the truck with the engine running while I went inside. Paige wasn't in the kitchen. I didn't see her. I went upstairs and packed everything into my duffel and backpack. Clothes, cables, the unopened water bottle, the batteries. It took maybe 10 minutes. When I came back down, Ross was standing by his truck. "Straight to Pittsburgh," he said. "Don't stop except for gas. Don't come back." "Okay," I said. He looked at me for a long moment. "I'm sorry," he said. "For what?" "For not lying better when you asked about Patrick." He got in his truck and left. I loaded my stuff into the hatchback, put the recorder bag on the passenger seat, and started driving. I checked the recorder an hour outside the county line. I pulled into a gas station, bought coffee I didn't drink, and sat in the parking lot with the unit in my lap. I scrolled through the files. The nighttime recording from the hut was gone. Wiped clean. Not just deleted. The file slot was empty like it had never been recorded. I checked the rest. The daytime material was still there. Tours, ambiances, visitor center, all intact. Just the night files were gone, all of them. I sat there staring at the empty list for maybe 5 minutes. Then I put the recorder back in the bag and kept driving. 2 hours later, my left ear started bleeding. Just a thin line. I felt it on my neck first, warm and wet, and wiped it with my hand. Blood. Bright red. I pulled over and checked in the rearview mirror. It was coming from inside my ear. Not a lot. Just a slow trickle. I pressed a gas station napkin against it and waited. It didn't clot. It slowed but didn't stop. The hearing on that side went dull, not gone, just muffled, like someone had packed cotton deep in the canal. And underneath the muffled silence was pressure. Constant. The same pressure I'd felt in the hut. I kept driving. I finished Abby's assignment. I sent her the daytime material 3 days after I got back to Pittsburgh. Tours, ambiances, visitor center atmosphere, clean files, usable. She paid me the second half on delivery. I needed the money, and leaving it half done would have raised questions I didn't want to answer. She asked if I'd gotten anything unusual. I said no. She said the material was solid and she'd call me for the next job. I said sure. I stopped wearing headphones for long sessions after that. An hour, maybe 2, then I had to take them off. Listening closely triggered something. A tightness in my chest. A low hum at the edge of my hearing that might have been real or might have been in my head. I couldn't tell anymore. In quiet rooms, I kept hearing it. The pulsing tone. The same rhythm. 3 seconds on, 3 seconds off. I'd be sitting in my apartment at night with the windows closed and the street noise gone, and there it was. Low. Deep. Just at the edge. I'd go outside and it would stop. I'd come back in and it would start again. Or I'd be outside and hear it and go inside and it would stop. I didn't know if it was in the air or in my ear, if it was real signal bleeding through from somewhere I couldn't see or permanent damage rattling around inside my own head. I just knew I couldn't stop hearing it, and I didn't know if that meant I was still listening or if I'd already lost